Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast.
And one of the things that we touched on in the show, and I wanted to talk more about it, which is what this is for, loneliness. Today, talking about the ways to combat loneliness, aside from the obvious of go ahead and make a social connection. And we don't mean a new one. It doesn't mean a new one. It means reach out to, spend time with people that you already are connected with.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be family. It can be a friend. It could be a neighbor, a coworker, whatever.
Sometimes it could be connecting with nature or just connecting with anything, right? Technically.
I mean,
you know what I mean? If you kind of got the blues,
well, whip out the harmonica.
I'm not writing out a song
BB King here.
But you know what I'm saying is, if you're lonely and you're sitting on the couch and the curtains are closed,
Da-na-na-na.
maybe going outside would be
Going outside is always good for mental health.
That's what I'm saying. So, but I understand where you're going.
We're
with
talking
the
about
connection
actual
part is,
loneliness.
Yes.
People who are,
Okay.
well, you could still be lonely outside under a tree.
I understand that.
Take, for instance, when I go outside and sit on the patio.
You're still alone.
It's still just me,
I'm sorry.
but I'm in nature.
I wanted to talk about this because isn't it such a delicate balance in life?
Yeah.
We know that loneliness is actually practically an epidemic in our world of, go home and work from home and live in your bubble. And especially during COVID, a lot of people were experiencing some loneliness that was really hard to get through.
Yeah.
And I've always said the saddest thing to me, one of the saddest things to me in the world is a lonely child. When a child is lonely because they have no life skills to know how to handle it, but they know that they're lonely,
Mm-hmm.
But the reason it's such an interesting topic is because all things in balance. If you are constantly with people and you need to retreat, you need that too. You need alone time too. So it's such a crazy, balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
I find that I need alone time every day. I'd like it. Every day I don't get it, but I do hope for it.
Yeah.
And kind of retreat.
But alone time and loneliness are really two different things, aren't
Yes,
they?
they are. Yes, they are.
Yeah. So who do you need the alone time from?
Aw, it's not from anyone.
Oh.
That's a good point. It's for me.
It's reset time, yeah.
It's for me. Now, look,
This is what I wanted.
going back to, for example, the fight. When Murphy and I argue and we are, being combative with each other, which happens in life and marriage when you work together.
And for the record, I'm really happy we're going back to the fight.
Yeah, me too.
No, this is a good example because whenever I need the downtime away from that, it's not that I need to be away from you as much as I need to just be alone with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's important that people see it that way. Hopefully, if you are seeking alone time, hopefully you're not trying to get away from someone as much as you are trying to get centered for yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
I
That's
agree
true.
with that. Yeah. Completely.
Having a sense of self. To have a really strong sense of self, you need to be able to be by yourself.
And I think that is because our days are overstimulated usually,
Yes.
and it's a combination of actual social human interaction and, interaction with our phones and constantly thinking of the next thing. Sometimes that alone time is really the only moment you have to give your brain a rest.
Yeah, you need it.
Okay, so loneliness. Do either one of you ever feel lonely?
I don't feel
'Cause
lonely in my life
Neither
now.
of you strike me as a lonely person.
No.
Yeah.
Aw. I don't feel lonely in my life right now. No. I have felt lonely in my life, and it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling. Do you feel lonely, Sam?
Oh, at times, yeah. I mean, I'm single and
Ready to
I'm
mingle?
Single. No. I occasionally mingle, yes, but no, yeah. There are times I feel lonely, and
What do you do in those
something.
times?
I mean, yeah, it might be as simple as going out and sitting on the patio, cranking up the music, or watching something on TV outside, or it's like go. It's just like one of the reasons I've started the past couple of months going to eat at restaurants, do restaurants.
Saturday
That's
morning,
one of the things.
Yeah.
Well, not Saturday morning, but in the middle of the day, Saturday. It's like there's
Go do
nobody
something.
here but me, so it's not like I have to say, "Hey, do you want to do something?" Because
Right.
the answer is yeah.
That's fun, though, because you're doing a couple of different things. You're getting out, you're changing your environment.
Yeah.
Food is a good thing.
Always.
Right.
You got to do it anyway.
But yeah, and so but what you're saying there is changing your environment. I really do think is one of those where, and because you don't have to be alone or lonely just because you're single. Right? I mean, choosing to be single doesn't mean that you're lonely. You have friends, you have interactions, you have things you can choose to do. I think that's a really good point, though. You just change your environment the moment that you're kind of feeling like that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I could sit on the sofa all day and watch football, but at some point it's like, I got to get out and do something. Even if it's a run to Walmart or run to Home Depot, whatever. Like you said, changing the environment.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I had this conversation with our youngest Phoebe the other day because she lives in an apartment and she has 2 roommates. And they all, talk and congregate in the kitchen and all of that. But she is and always has been the kid who needed her. She used to
needs her space.
She used to write notes in cute crayon and tape it on her door. Phoebe needs some alone time right now. I think I saved one of those because it was just so funny. And that's when we had a bunch of people over. We had, I think we were hosting Christmas, and she was just overstimulated. And so she literally put a boundary up for herself and put a note on the door. And she is still that person. And I love that she recognizes that and realizes it. And we were talking about how she really loves her roommates. They're very different, but they're very extroverted and social. And there's a lot of talking. And sometimes she likes that and needs it, but she also goes upstairs to her room and gets in her cave.
I think that's very healthy. Because if you continue to be overstimulated in that environment and force yourself to be there, then you're probably not going to be. You might get irritable, or you know what I mean. You're not going to be really. It's not going to be a friendly environment that way because you're frustrated or whatever. I think
all of it
a good healthy
boils
thing.
down to self-awareness, being aware. Like you said, Sam, of when you're feeling lonely, then do something about it. Yeah. Or if you're feeling overstimulated and you need to say no to going out, or you just need, I need a little time. And you don't owe anybody an apology for it. It's just, I need a little time for me.
Yeah.
It's self-awareness.
For the loneliness thing, the self-awareness is if you don't get up and go do something, you're going to keep going further down that lonely hole.
Probably.
Lonely hole. Yeah. I mean, because it's like, I got to do something. And it's like, no, I'll just sit here and stew.
And the myth of social media is that there are some really good benefits. Reconnecting with people, people finding resources for things that they need, reconnecting with an old friend. It can be really good, but you can't live on it because it also has that element of fear of missing out, or that element of, they're having a great time, which can make you feel, even more, I guess, lonely.
Yeah.
It can cause feelings of loneliness. So that's one of the things, the recommendations was don't just rely solely on social media. It's not necessarily as social as you think it is. Yeah. It's not true social.
Right. And I hadn't really thought about it when Sam asked, do you have moments where you're lonely? Because right now, I don't think I do either. Like Jodi said, there were certainly times that I did. Mm-hmm. And then I think about, like, when my grandmother was still alive in the years after my grandfather had passed, and I don't want to be depressing here, but what I did watch as, she dealt with that in that one year, and then she got really engaged again with the family and was very social and experienced another 30 years of life that she really did enjoy. She missed my grandfather terribly, but she was happy and she was not lonely.
Good.
But as she continued to outlive those around her, I could see those glimmers and those moments of, a lot of her friends had passed and all of her siblings had passed. And that, I think, is probably its own challenging kind of loneliness, which is why people, especially at that age, really need some sort of, interaction, engagement, whether it's from family members or if they don't have family members or friends around anymore, church groups or
something once a
living
day,
centers or whatever.
At least once a day. Nothing to overwhelm, but just a little something once a day. I saw the same thing with my grandfather.
Right.
At the end of his life, where he just needed a short visit. It was never anything. He couldn't sustain a long visit, but he really, he sparked up when you walked through the door.
And so the other side of that, you got my 85-year-old mother who can't sit still.
Which is great. Yeah. I mean, it's good.
Because I know it just seems like at that age, if you just sat around, you would probably go downhill real fast.
Your mind would take you.
Yeah.
It's and I've had the weird little fear, and I know we can't control the future on that, but I've tried to put myself in that position.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine a world without Jodi, for example, I know that there are people who can, but no, I'm just kidding.
One of them's right here.
And they're in this room.
No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, but I can't, you know what I mean? And so, but I don't, that you also don't want to put yourself in the future in a space that's not current
now.
reality, right?
Live now.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're going to outlive all of us, Murphy.
You think?
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.